All right. Salam alaikum. Good morning. This is recording. We're live. Munira, how are you, sir?
Alaikum salam. Doing good. On my end, morning is long gone, man. It's 2 p.m. already.
Yeah, you're halfway through the fasting. How's day one?
Day one is going as day one goes, usually. For us, caffeine addicts, usually by 2 p.m. you get hit by a headache, and that's a normal thing. In a day or two, the body adjusts, and
Right.
it's normal and smooth sail from then on.
Yeah, and the body runs perfectly functional without the caffeine, and then it
Perfectly
ends, and then we
functional.
get back on it just for
Right.
whatever reason.
We do. We
Man.
do.
Do anything fun over the weekend?
Yeah, I went to visit my parents. Spent the whole weekend there. I got back yesterday. Um, I mean, everything about it was fun, I guess, and then nothing beyond that really. But everything about you, as always, going to visit my parents is a nice experience.
What's the biggest change in being in in your house versus going up to where they live?
Well, where they live in a mountainous region, hillside really. The air is much nicer, of course, as it is urban to rural. And then, of course, I'm going to the place where my ancestors lived for, I would say, centuries, and then I come back and live here in the apartment I bought 3 years ago, and no one lived before. So it's kind of like when I go, it's like going back to the roots. It's always feel like that. Feels like that because as well the language they speak up there is a little bit different. Like the accent is a little bit different to what it is in the urban areas, and it's every time I get and I had that switch.
Yeah.
Before I was raised there, and you know Bosnian, and I mean every accent in Bosnian is similar, but this one is kind of peculiar. And it's yeah, it's apart from that, it's one country, I guess. It's only 100 miles from here, but it's in the mountain, and you can feel that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy how much for a small country, there's differences in like different cities and different parts. I feel like in the US, it's like coast to coast is like 3,000 miles, and that's almost how far you have to travel to even see like accent different changes and stuff like that. You almost have to drive like 500 to 1,000 miles to even get a little bit of a nuance change.
All right, here is different because the whole country is 250 miles across, and that's it,
That's
300 miles
insane.
from one end to the other. But if you look at the bigger picture, like Europe, it's a completely different story than it is in US because in Europe everyone has their own country and has their own language, so it cannot be compared to US. But even the whole Europe is like maybe 2,000 miles tops,
Yeah,
like from one end to another.
crazy, man. Okay, let's dive into some work stuff. Okay, so I made a little presentation here for drivers. I think it's going to be a little bit easier for everyone to benefit from these, right? Hold on a second. Let me go back to. Okay, this is supposed to be the landing. So first, I want to just lead with this. This is something that we always talk with our staff about, and I want to share it with the drivers as well. I sent a video where we there's a 30-minute video I sent a couple of days ago. It's a bit long. I mean, if I think it's good for our drivers to watch and learn and understand kind of our focus in the office and what type of service we're trying to deliver. But those core values that we focus on with our staff is deliver happiness. Obviously, we cannot, create a load when one does not exist. We cannot force a customer to pay a higher price than they want to pay. But what we can do is always when we communicate with our drivers to try to deliver happiness, to try to brighten their day and make their day slightly better than it was before we called. Stay humble. It's very easy, especially when you're right and the other party is wrong, to become arrogant and to become difficult to speak with. So with us, through everything, just staying humble and having that humility when we speak with people and resolve problems. Take ownership is a huge one. I see less and less of this nowadays in customer service and in logistics in particular. Taking ownership is when there's a problem at hand. It doesn't matter if you caused it. It doesn't matter if it's your job to fix it. Be the one that steps in, takes ownership, and if you cannot directly fix it, make sure you get the person who can on the phone and resolve the problem. Right. We don't want to play hot potatoes with people's problems, and that's often what happens in customer service nowadays. We want to identify when something is becoming a serious issue and then intervene and take care of it. Drive innovation. I think our drivers can attest to this. We're continuously rolling out new things. We're continuously innovating. Sometimes, you do it right, and other times you try to roll something out and it doesn't work as planned. Growth mindset. I mean, if we as a team have a fixed mindset of things are the way they are and this is how they're always going to be, then no change happens, no improvements, no growth happens. So we try to approach every day from a mentality of just because we have this issue today, with proper steps, we can overcome it and we can have a better tomorrow. Stand together, especially in tough times. It's very important that there's a sense of camaraderie and that people can rely on each other. Bring enthusiasm. It's very, very closely tied with that deliver happiness. But when we get on the phone and we sound sad and like our kitten died and that day, then we're gonna bring the other person's mood down. If we get on the phone and we're sounding happy to be there, then we'll elevate their mood as well. Dream big, being disciplined to do what we know we need to do, and then always integrity above all. So, from a driver's perspective, guys, if you notice, if you run into a scenario where you feel like one of these things is not being executed, please call us out. Please share that information with us. We're imperfect, but we are trying to implement these things and live by these things day to day. Anything to add on this?
No, man, you summarized it pretty well. Integrity above all in the end is really, really what resonates because we wouldn't be here with our drivers and with our customers if we didn't have this all along.
Yes, sir. Okay, so just to recap last week, P11, and that's of course March 4th until March 10th. We had 212 loads, 67 active drivers. So loads per active driver is 3.16. This is of course an average. And average driver gross pay 1869, which is below what it's been the last few weeks. We, I mentioned in a couple videos ago. Um, Before this churn of events in the industry, when things were good, our average driver pay was between 26, 27, and it got up to 3,000 a few weeks. Lately, it's been about 2,000, and this week in particular was one of the worst weeks we've had. Um, what do you think led to that, man? What do you think contributed to that the most? What are your takeaways?
Yeah, that's really the second worst week this year. So out of 11 weeks, this is the
It
second
failed
worst
to
one.
even be the best at being worst. That's how
Yeah,
bad the week was.
that's how bad it was. But overall, not just last week, but last couple of weeks, we experienced really, really decrease in available loads posted, and some of our drivers restricted themselves, especially this week, and they were content with lower pay but being around home because a lot of our drivers are Muslim and they're trying to be home for Ramadan. And I noticed by the end of the week a lot of those home buys to be home at the start of the Ramadan. and some of them even for today said, put us out of service for this day so we can start Ramadan and be home for first a day and then tomorrow morning available. So I think that influenced the average number. Now,
Sure.
drivers that were available for everything, of course, they were earning more and they were on the higher end. And but even in the industry, I read last week was the first week since April 2015 that on DAT for big trucks it had less than 600,000 loads posted available.
Wow.
So that's on DAT
So in almost 10
statistics.
years,
Yeah.
in the
So
last
that was,
almost 10 years, the fewest amount of loads posted last week for trucks on DAT.
but on our end, if we look at only
Wow.
selectors or something like that, we experienced a 20% less loads. So
Yeah,
that's a huge hit, and it impacts the rates, but also impact just the number of drivers booked.
of course. I
So
mean, when there's fewer loads posted, people get desperate. And sometimes
indeed,
people get dramatically desperate. That's the thing, right? Because if someone is waiting somewhere and they're trying to bid $1 a mile and they're not getting it, they may not cut down to 95 cents and then, we just have to lower by a few dollars to get it. But they may go from $1,000 at $1 a mile to now bid 800 or 750. So sometimes, man, people get dramatically desperate. That's a good bit of information that I didn't know, but it adds some clarity to what happened even on our end. So in the last
indeed.
10 years, the fewest amount of loads posted on DAT. Wow.
Yeah, well, I think that was the correct data. I think it was like 600,000 loads. First time below 600,000 loads posted in a week
Wow. That's crazy, man.
on the AT.
Yeah, I remember I have family that are in trucking and they used to show me DAT load board out of St. Louis and there were hundreds of loads that they can pick from. I mean literally like, they could put loads from Missouri to Texas and there would be 30, 40 loads that they're looking at and they choose which one they want. Now it's completely different ball game. I had a relative drive 500 miles in a truck to pick up a load empty. 500 empty miles. I mean, you know how much of prima donna truckers are. If it's 30 miles empty, they're complaining about stuff, but not anymore.
Right. Not anymore.
Okay, hopefully that changes, man. All we can do is continue to optimize our stuff, our systems, our relationships with our customers, our pricing, and everything else to try to be as competitive as we can be. I thought this would be interesting to share with the drivers as well. This is a breakdown for last week. So we had 10 drivers earn under 1,000, which was 15% of our active fleet. We had 29 earn between 1,000 and 2,000. That's 45%. We had 18 earn between 2 and 3,000, which is 28% of our fleet. That's really the sweet spot where we want the majority of our drivers to fall in. And of course, 3,000 to 4,000, happy to see some drivers able to do that as well. 12% of our fleet are 8 drivers, and zero people earned over 4,000. So let's try to change that this week. Let's shift all of these numbers down one box, right? Let's reduce the number of less than 1,000 and increase everything else.
Yeah,
Um,
hopefully we will.
yeah,
That's the goal always. And we usually have someone in 4,000
we do.
region as well.
We do,
Not
man.
this week.
Okay. Um, this is the other one that I wanted to share with people. This is the most miles driven. This is loaded miles. So I misspelled vehicle, but vehicule,
Some Arabic word, man.
vehicule. Yeah, well, in spirit of Ramadan.
Right.
Vehicule number 607, a newer driver had over 4,000 loaded miles. Um, 593 had 36, 13 had 3,900, 85 and 31. Good to see the veterans, sticking in there and fighting off the new guys, right?
Yeah, they are. They're usually veterans. They know the drill. They know how it goes. They've been with us for 5, 6
Right.
years, some of them, and they know how it goes. So they usually are available for a lot, and especially when the times are tough, they kind of get.
Yeah. Um, Milestone updates. I don't think there were any for drivers. Were there? Was there anything new last week?
No, no.
Yeah. We got a lot of stuff on our end. We're building the recruiting to simplify bringing on new drivers in Milestone. We updated the pricing. We gave customers ability to reserve a bid. So when we place a bid, if they want us to hold the driver, we gave them ability to do that. We're building some features on customer side, like ability to chat with us, ability to collect paperwork, ability to, do a variety of things. So there's a lot going on the back end for Office, but I don't think there was anything new for drivers rolled out.
No, I think the latest thing was a fleet owners update where we
Yeah.
created a fleet owners
See,
page so they can track.
there was something new.
Yeah, I don't think it was in last week, but
It
or
was,
it
man.
was maybe. It
Yeah.
was.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So now fleet owners are able to log in and see all of their vehicles. We've had a couple guys that have been begging for that for a long time, and we're finally able to get it done. The other thing that we're going to be adding maybe this week, hopefully, is a ability for drivers to tag people in messages. So if they want to message me something and or they want to mention me in a message, they can just put the @ sign and then write Aldin, and then it'll give them ability to tag me, and then I will see the message personally. I'll get a personal notification saying that such and such driver sent me a message.
That's a
So
cool
that'll
update.
be pretty neat, yeah. Um, P12 focus area number one is reduced pit. Pit is prime idle time. From This is time from 8 a.m. until 6 p.m. During business hours. That's really when the majority of drivers expect to get booked. That's when the majority of loads get booked. Can you say something again? I don't know if the audio's
No, no, no. I was
okay.
just
Perfect.
confirming your.
Yeah, yeah. Pit. So we want to reduce that. We want to reduce the amount of waiting idle time in those prime hours. Um, we're gonna send our drivers that BHX suggested dispatch settings. Have we done this before? We've talked about it.
No, we only we didn't do this systematically. I would share from every now and then. I would send a mass message with suggested dispatch settings, but nothing systematically.
Yeah, maybe even adding it in the app, adding
I would.
ability for drivers to just press activate BHX suggested settings or something.
I would.
Provide guidance for drivers wanting to be close home for Ramadan. Man, I saw one of our drivers last night at the Tarawih prayer, the night prayer that we do. And I mean, it's a guy that's gonna be on the road going into Ramadan and not spending every night with his family. And I mean, from a business side, of course, we know what it is. We understand. You're a professional driver. You're in the cargo van industry where it's impossible to be home every night with over the road type of loads. Um, Especially now when the industry is down. So from that angle, from the business, emotionless angle, like it is what it is. But from a human angle, man, you can't but help but feel bad for that circumstance in that situation. So any driver wanting to be home as much as possible and make as much as possible in that time as well. What I would advise you to do is put something like a 400 or 500 mile maximum distance around home. Remove any minimum load pay. Remove any, or actually, you can't remove the minimum load pay, but lower it down to 100, and then put your remove any rate per mile. Okay. Um, This will allow us to book you on some shorter loads, which I mean, it's common sense, but I'll say it. It's gonna be impossible for you to make any decent amount of money, be home or close to home, and not take short loads. You can't have minimum load pay be a $400 or $500 and make any money with those other things. So just understand that in order to make money now, you're going to have some combination of medium and short size loads, and the goal is to keep you close to home, where there's always a chance you're going to get back home, um, just with the load that we randomly book, and remove any other restrictions. Um, what else we got? Let's see. Yeah, so the only other thing actually I thought of this morning, and I'll tentatively mention it, but I was thinking about building something into the app where drivers can enable home home pricing discounts. Okay, home pricing discounts would essentially be that anytime there's a load going towards their home, going closer to home, that it would automatically bid a slightly lower price, right? So if we normally bid 90 cents a mile to Missouri and we have a driver who lives in Missouri, well, then anytime there's a load going within 100 miles of their home, for example, the system would automatically lower it down to 80 cents if they have this enabled. So it wouldn't be a dramatical change. It wouldn't be like bidding, half price or anything. But it would be that if there's a load anytime you have that setting on, if there's a load going within 100 miles of your home, the system discounts the price, by 10% or whatever. So instead of getting $600, you would get $540, which I think for most people they would like a lot, because it allows them to get home more often and still not destroy their earnings. What do you think of that?
I think yeah, I think we mentioned that before as well. We spoke about it many times. We had some ideas where, when someone puts a home buy, that how the days are closing in, there will be a ring that would be shrinking, and then
Hmm.
we would work with the rates as well in order to book the driver. It is good as long as the driver is good with it.
But
No,
the difference with this is it wouldn't be home by. This would be any time. This is just like I don't need to go home by a certain date. But if there's a load going around my home, I'll take it for even a little bit less. Because
and
anytime people
yeah,
provide a home buy, it's so restrictive. It makes it so that the whole week is gonna be bad loads wise. But
yeah,
this would
and
just be
when
like any time.
I agree, and when they provide a home buy, it is really, really important for them to understand from where they're providing or putting a home buy, what is their current location when they're doing so. We have to think strategic because if you're in Louisiana and live in Minnesota and you put 300 miles around home, you might end up going empty halfway.
Yeah.
It's better if whatever your needs are. I understand if you need to be home, you need to be home. I mean, load or no load. But if you're in tough spot, just don't put home buys at all. Get yourself to Michigan, to Indiana, to Illinois, from where we can actually put a mileage around home and home by. It is what it is. That's a fact of life as well. We had a driver 400 miles around home in Louisiana last week. It didn't work, and I told him it will not work. And then he's in the end he started rolling empty. So that's how it is.
Right. Yeah, it's tough, man, because people are out there and they're just, they this is where drivers need to work closely with dispatch and dispatch needs to work closely with drivers because drivers are not they don't have all of the information they need to make fully educated, informed decisions about their dispatch settings. And that's why we always say Milestone is a great tool, powerful tool, but in the wrong hands or in untrained hands, it can be a source for messing up your week and earning less money. So I would always advise, and I mean that's part of our job as well. We are supposed to be going through all of the dispatch settings daily, seeing if there's anything. We're supposed to be reviewing the dispatch settings before we approve them. When a driver submits something. At the end of the day, though, I mean, what we can do is provide genuine, feedback and guidance. And if somebody wants to stick with the decision, then that's on them. And then we do our best to accommodate whatever decision, whatever setting they put. Um, the only other thing, we oftentimes we tailor our conversations around maximizing people's earnings, but we're speaking about that because that's the majority of what we run into on a daily basis. There are drivers who are perfectly happy making $1,000 gross or $1,500 gross, and they're happy making that if it means that they're closer to home and they don't have to drive at night and they don't have to take certain types of loads, and that's okay with us too. I mean, for us, if all of our drivers are making $1,000 and they're happy, we want that over, you know, getting drivers to make $3,000, but if they're unhappy. So we're here to accommodate and meet whatever our drivers want at the end of the day. Um, with all that
That's right.
said, and the blessed month of Ramadan upon us, do you have any words of wisdom?
Uh, Words of wisdom.
Words of
I thought
wisdom.
you were gonna ask me about operational updates or something like that. Something fun happened or something like that. I
Well,
was
tell me
getting
that
ready for
too, and
that.
then we'll get to the words of wisdom. You've bought yourself
You
some
know,
time.
nothing funny happened. It was a dull week.
Okay? Back to
I
words
don't
of wisdom.
know. Back to words of wisdom. Back to words of wisdom, guys. Stay safe out there and stay healthy. Of course, month of Ramadan is a nice a system reboot, I guess I call it like that to myself as well, and to others. So of course as well, just try to be active on out there. There's nothing that kills body more than not moving, not being physically active. And I know that personally. Every 3 months I go 10 kilos up, 10 kilos down. Not good for me. Don't do that to yourself, guys.
Yes, sir. Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Salam alaikum.
Alaikum
Masa.
assalam.